Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. It is another breaking news day, like every day seems to be recently. Abrego Garcia is back on U.S. soil. The Democrats wouldn't stop until this bad actor was given a free ride back. For how long? Nobody knows. We have an update on what's waiting for Mr. Garcia in the U.S. courts. If you ever question what the Democrat Party stands for, just remember this. 148 Democrat U.S. House members voted to allow non-citizen voting in Washington, D.C. ABC News made it official yesterday. They fired veteran correspondent Terry Moran 2 days after his social media rant targeted President Donald Trump and advisor Stephen Miller. President Trump announced yesterday that he will restore the names of Fort Robert E. Lee and 6 other military bases that formerly honored Confederate war leaders. We have that list for you. And a decade after 9 people were gunned down in a Charleston church, South Carolina's lone Democrat in Congress is launching another effort to close the loophole that allowed the hate-filled shooter to purchase his gun.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill yesterday blocking non-citizens from voting in Washington, D.C. elections, an issue that's pitting GOP lawmakers against progressive Democrats. The legislation was sponsored by Texas Republican August Pfluger, passed, fortunately, with 266 votes in favor, including the support of 56 Democrats. But that's not the story. The majority of House Democrats, 140 of them, and who's counting, voted against the measure. One Democrat voted present. Representative Pfluger told Fox News Digital, "We don't like to use federal overreach, but Congress has jurisdiction over D.C. They've gone too far." At issue is a 2022 D.C. City Council law that allows non-citizens, including green card holders, visa holders, and even undocumented immigrants, to vote in local elections if they've lived in the city for at least 30 days. Oh, they got to live there for 30 days. They can also run for local office. Republicans are calling foul, arguing that this opens the door for foreign nationals, including hostile agents from places like Russia or China, to have influence over D.C.'s policies. So think about that. You could have some radical from Russia move to Washington, D.C., register to vote, and run for mayor or run for city council. And those idiots up there might even elect him. Pfluger said, "It's just wrong. It goes against the fabric of our society." I don't get it. I try to understand the argument on both sides of issues. I just don't get why anybody thinks that it's okay for a foreign national to vote in any of our elections, not even for dog catcher. But progressive, like Florida Democrat Maxwell Frost, calls the GOP's concerns political theater. We're just overreacting, he says. He told colleagues on the House floor, Republicans only legislate on D.C. issues when they think they can score points by demonizing immigrants. It's not demonizing immigrants. It's acknowledging the fact that they're citizens of other countries. They can go vote in their own elections if they're from a country that has elections. But they certainly cannot vote here. Voting is a privilege that we earn as being U.S. citizens. If they want to vote, for the mayor of D.C., then go through the process and become a U.S. citizen and do it the right way. Frost argued that it's unlikely any foreign officials would vote, saying they'd have to give up voting rights in their home countries. Who would know? Does he really think? Let's go back to my scenario of a Russian national over here to create chaos, comes over, gets involved in the community, has a lot of money, buys his way into D.C. politics, is elected mayor. Do you think that anybody from Russia is going to check on whether or not he's voting here or potentially voting back in Russia? Again, bad example because they don't vote much in Russia, do they? He said that D.C. elections don't affect federal policies anyway. Why would a local D.C. resident want a foreign to be able to vote in their elections? Despite the partisan clash, support from over 50 Democrats, of course, suggested that there is a growing concern among some on the left about the optics and consequences of non-citizen voting. We can only hope. Meanwhile, the poster boy for the House Democrats, Abrego Garcia, is back on U.S. soil. What a waste of time and resources. Harris Faulkner reported on his return for Fox News.
Illegal immigrant and alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Armando Garcia is back in the United States. He is scheduled to be arraigned in federal court this Friday. A federal grand jury indicted him on charges of human smuggling this past Friday, and that was just hours after the U.S. brought him back from El Salvador. Here's Tennessee Highway Patrol body cam footage now from a traffic stop in 2022. Troopers pulled Abrego Garcia over for speeding. They got suspicious when they found 8 other men inside the car, all with the same address that matched Garcia's.
You got a bunch of people in here, don't you?
It's 146. Yes. Go back to work.
How many rows have you got in here? 4?
Where?
4 seats? 4 rows of seats?
Yes.
You know what you got here, right?
No.
He's hauling these people for money.
Our nation's U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi here.
The grand jury found that over the past 9 years, Abrego Garcia has played a significant role in an alien smuggling ring. They found this was his full-time job, not a contractor. He was a smuggler of humans and children and women.
So this is who this guy is. A human smuggler. Everyone knows it. He even is accused of assaulting his wife. Her words, not mine. But the Democrats fought to bring him back. Well, he's back now. Now what? Madison Scarpio, also from Fox News, gives us an update on what's next for him.
Harris, Abrego Garcia has been back in the U.S. for 3 days now after several months of many Democrats demanding his return. He's reportedly in a Tennessee jail about 70 miles from here in Nashville. He was briefly in this federal courthouse before that, and we're expecting him to be back here on Friday. Abrego Garcia, as you mentioned, now facing federal human smuggling and conspiracy charges over allegations that date back to 2016. The newly unsealed indictment accuses him of smuggling thousands of illegal immigrants across the U.S., including women and children, some of whom he abused. It also accuses him of participating in the killing of a rival gang member's mother. The Trump administration has long accused the illegal immigrant of being an MS-13 gang member and just an overall dangerous man. But Abrego Garcia's defense attorney is calling the case baseless and says the new charges are preposterous. Abrego Garcia's deportation also led to many Democrats strongly advocating for his due process. One senator, Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, even went to visit Abrego Garcia in El Salvador, and he calls his return to the U.S. a victory. But Republican Congressman Michael McCall doesn't see it that way.
The Democrats hold Mr. Garcia up as if he's some golden boy poster child that they all rally behind, when he's in fact related to MS-13. He beats his wife. I mean, it's hardly a model for the Democratic Party. I think they're making a terrible mistake politically.
Again, we're expecting Abrego Garcia back here in Nashville on Friday for his arraignment and also for his detention hearing. And if convicted, Border Czar Tom Homan tells Fox this morning that he will serve his sentence here in the U.S. and then he's going to be deported back to El Salvador. Harris.
So he eventually goes back there anyway. Wow.
Wow, that's right. Wow. The Trump administration yesterday said it plans to seek the dismissal of a civil case ordering them to return Garcia to the U.S., arguing that a new court filing that the case is now moot given the fact that he's back in U.S. custody. In the filing, lawyers for the Trump administration told U.S. Judge Paula Zenix that they plan to submit an official motion to dismiss the case on mootness grounds by June 16th. Justice Department officials said that they have done exactly what plaintiffs asked for and what the court has ordered them to do. And that is return Abrego Garcia to the U.S. from El Salvador, where he was deported under the Aliens Enemies Act in March, in what Trump officials acknowledged was an administrative error at the time. Just the process, not the fact that he should be returned. And that's what is just crazy about this entire scenario. The guy is going to end up back in El Salvador. He is here illegally. He's broken many, many laws. He's a smuggler. He's a human smuggler. And yes, he's going to be sent back, but the Democrats, they wanted to make him a poster child, and they want to waste all this time and this energy and this money only to see him returned at some point. It's not when, or it's not if, but it's when. Joey Hudson here. America is facing a health crisis, and the answer isn't more meds. I lost over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan without Ozempic or any weight loss shots. Don't settle for a lifetime of medication. GLP-1 injections like Ozempic help some people lose weight, but they come with side effects, high cost, and most gain it back when they stop. At PhD Weight Loss, we reveal Big Pharma's big secret. Your body already makes GLP-1, the appetite-fighting hormone. Our program helps your body make it naturally so you'll drop the pounds faster. With the PhD method, no side effects, no long-term risk, no rebound weight gain, just natural, lasting results, all without hunger or cravings. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. Discover your body's true potential without a shot. It's free and gives you the keys to your personalized plan. Do like I did and don't trade your health for a quick fix. Call now at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com. Boy, this happened quick. So ABC News just fired longtime correspondent Terry Moran for going on social media and ranting about Trump advisor Stephen Miller and the president himself. And honestly, if you've ever wanted to see what happens when journalistic ethics, network politics, and unfiltered Twitter rage collide in real time, this is a textbook example of that. Here's the deal. Here's what happened. Moran, who's been with ABC since the Clinton administration, hopped on X at 2 a.m. on Sunday and basically torched Stephen Miller in a now deleted post. This wasn't your standard, I disagree with the guy's policies kind of commentary. No, this was a full-on personal attack. He called Miller a world-class hater whose hatreds are his spiritual nourishment, and said he doesn't operate on brains but on bile. He of course, threw in the president as well. He had a lot of things that he tossed in on Donald Trump, too, that Donald Trump's a hater as well. Moran then deleted the post, but, of course, the damage is already done. You can't unsee that. ABC suspended him that day, and by yesterday, it was official. He was gone. He was fired. Done. Career over at ABC after nearly 3 decades. This guy just blew his career away because of his hatred of Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. He was one of their most senior correspondents. He's the one who sat down and had an exclusive interview with President Trump not too long ago. So let's kind of unpack this. Let's look at this. First, what was Moran... What Moran said, was it professional? No, it wasn't. Was it personal? Deeply. Was it against ABC News policies? Absolutely, according to them now. And did ABC have every right to let him go? Yep, that part is actually not even controversial. The problem is how incredibly revealing this whole situation is about ABC, about the media, and about how completely Twitter has warped public discourse. I've never been, I don't want to say a fan of Twitter. I don't dislike Twitter. I've never understood Twitter. I have a Twitter account. I don't look at it every day. I sometimes go days, sometimes maybe a week without looking at it. Then I'll get interested in something that's going on, and I'm an eavesdropper. I like to see what other people are saying about things, but I've never just gotten caught up in the minute to where I'm just watching it. I'm more of a Facebook and YouTuber. I like to watch YouTube. I like to see up-and-coming YouTube stars. It really intrigues me of how people have just really made a career out of YouTube. All right, that's not what I'm talking about, though. I digress. So back on ABC News. They're a division of Disney, of course. Disney is in deep cost-cutting mode right now. They're struggling. They're laying off, slashing budgets, doing everything they can to keep their political relationships intact, especially with the GOP as we approach the midterm election cycle. So when a high-salary anchor like Moran, reportedly making anywhere from $600,000 to $900,000 a year, maybe more, that's kind of what's been reported. When he goes rogue and tanks the network's hard-earned attempts at reestablishing trust with the Trump team, I guess that's a fireable offense with a financial upside for ABC. They get to enforce their so-called journalistic standards, or at least appear that they've done that, and save a big fat paycheck, which is a win-win for them. Not such a win for Moran. And don't forget, ABC is still reeling from the George Stephanopoulos fiasco, where they had to pay $16 million to settle a defamation case for misreporting that Trump was found guilty of rape in a civil finding that was a sexual assault, a critical legal distinction. That mistake didn't just cost them money, it cost them access, it cost them credibility, it cost them goodwill. I was surprised when President Trump agreed to even sit down with Terry Moran just, what was that, a month or so ago? I was surprised that he would even sit down with ABC, period, after the Stephanopoulos fiasco. So Terry Moran's late-night tirade on X, that was just sort of salt in the wound. And it wasn't just unprofessional. It was just strategically stupid. So let's talk about what he actually said. Moran didn't attack Miller's policies, or Trump's policies for that matter. He went after Stephen Miller's face, his aura, his essence. He described him as someone who literally feeds on hate, like some kind of political vampire from a dystopian novel. That's the kind of thing you yell at your TV in the privacy of your home. You don't post it on X for the entire world to see and for your network to see. Now, I get it. Emotions are running high at times. The progressives are just, they're foaming at the mouth. Stephen Miller's name alone can trigger outrage on the left. He's the architect of some of the most aggressive immigration and border policies of the Trump years. But the moment a journalist, or a so-called journalist, abandons objectivity and dives face first into this kind of rhetoric, especially in public, on X, they're not reporting the news anymore. They're making it, which brings us to the bigger point. This isn't just about Terry Moran. It's about how broken the line is now between journalism and activism, especially on social media. Twitter or X or whatever has turned into many reporters, has turned them into commentators, and the public, meanwhile, no longer distinguishes between the two. One angry post, and suddenly you're no longer Terry Moran, veteran ABC correspondent. You're Terry Moran, Democrat operative with a press pass. That's the perception, and in politics, perception is reality. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. President Donald Trump has now sent a total of 700 U.S. Marines to assist police and National Guard in restoring peace in Los Angeles as this just continues to grow every day. The Department of Homeland Security shared drone footage on X of the Los Angeles rioters striking and throwing items at a van responding to the violent protest. The video also shows police running toward the actions as fireworks explode in the middle of the streets and on the sidewalks. DHS wrote in the Post, "This is not calm. This is not peaceful. California politicians must call off their rioting mob." Meanwhile, a judge denied California Governor Gavin Newsom's ask for an immediate restraining order on Trump deploying military in Los Angeles. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer declined Newsom's emergency request, but granted the Trump administration's request for more time to respond to the governor's filing. Court hearing regarding the matter is scheduled for tomorrow. California suing President Trump, accusing him of using federal troops and commandeering state National Guard personnel to carry out immigration enforcement despite objections from the governor and other California officials. Governor Newsom addressed residents of California last night in response to President Donald Trump's response to the Los Angeles riots. According to the governor, Trump's assault is on democracy, and the president is illegally militarizing the state guard. And in the governor's opinion, he's out of line. They don't want the help. I guess they just want to sit back and watch their city burn. So here's something, changing the subject. Here's something that you're not supposed to say out loud anymore, but we're going to say it. Speaking of President Trump, he had a busy day yesterday. I don't know how he keeps up with all that's going on. But he did something yesterday that was pretty courageous, something that no one in Washington has had the guts to do in recent years. He said no to the left's historical amnesia. He said enough to the endless erasure of American heritage. And he's announcing that he's restoring the names of 7 U.S. Army bases that honored Confederate leaders. Here's the president.
For a little breaking news, we are also going to be restoring the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee. We won a lot of battles out of those forts. It's no time to change. And I'm superstitious, you know, I like to keep it going, right? I'm very superstitious. We want to keep it going. So that's a big story. We just announced that today to you for the first time. They said, why didn't you wait till Saturday? I said, I can't wait.
Yes, restoring them. Fort Robert E. Lee, Fort Hood, Fort Polk, Fort Gordon, Fort Rucker, Fort A.P. Hill, Fort Pickett. Names that have stood for centuries. Names that watched America's troops go off to fight the Nazis, the Japanese Empire, the Taliban. Names our veterans remember. Names our enemies feared. And now, after a brief but hysterical detour into just downright woke stupidity, they're coming back. Naturally, this sent the professional hysterics into cardiac arrest. The media, the woke media melting down. Left-wing Twitter, or X, I keep calling it Twitter, X, having a collective seizure. And former Biden administration officials just standing on their heads. The same people who gave us open borders, $7 gasoline, and war in Eastern Europe is furious that someone might bring back a little bit of American tradition. But what's this really about? And why should we care? Let's be honest. It's never been about Robert E. Lee or Hood or Pickett. None of the Democrats screaming about white supremacy could tell you the first thing about General A.P. Hill. This was about something else. It was about control. It was about erasing the past and that you can dictate the future by doing so. It's that simple. That's what they've been trying to do for the last 4 years and the last decade. You saw it when they tore down statues in the middle of the night. You saw it when they renamed schools. You saw it when Nancy Pelosi stood in front of the Capitol, surrounded by armed guards, pretending that eliminating the name Fort Bragg was somehow civil rights progress, that we were going to be accepting of everybody. It was going to heal the wounds. Now, what President Trump is doing is the opposite. He's not erasing anything. He's saying we're not going to pretend this Civil War never happened. We can't do that. It did happen. It was a dark time. I admit that. I've said it many, many times. It's not something to be proud of. We're not going to pretend that Robert E. Lee, one of the most brilliant military minds in American history, did not exist. We're not going to pretend every part of our history has to be scrubbed clean by a committee of gender studies and woke left. Now, does this mean Trump's a racist? Does this mean those of us who support this are racist? Of course not. That's absurd. But that's exactly what the media is already saying, because they've run out of arguments. That's what the left is saying. They're screaming, a bunch of racist Republicans. Conservatives are racist. What they really mean is that Trump refuses to bow. And that's their biggest fear. A leader who won't participate in the ritual humiliation of America in our past. The military, well, that's the part that's even more disturbing, because under Joe Biden, and frankly, under some Republican leadership, the U.S. military has allowed to become a testing ground for DEI social engineering. Now, it's changing. Trump's changing that. Pete Hegseth is changing that. But remember, some of these are the same geniuses who tried to blame white rage for Afghanistan falling to the Taliban. The same people who think a drag queen Navy recruitment video is a smart idea. Be inclusive. We gotta include everybody in our military. No, we don't. We need to include people who can fight for our country, who aren't arguing over which bathroom to go to. So, of course, they wanted to rename the bases. Not because it helps the troops, because it helps their careers. Because in Washington, sucking up to the mob is now a full-time job. Now, let's get something else straight here. No soldier in history, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear from my veteran friends out there, ever hesitated at the gates of Fort Bragg because who it is named after. Nobody's morale was crushed under a sign that said Fort Gordon. Again, if you're a veteran, if you trained at one of these forts, tell me. At one of these military establishments, tell me. I don't think it bothered anybody what it was named. These names aren't hurting anyone. They're only offensive because someone in a Brooklyn newsroom told you that they're offensive. Meanwhile, the world's on fire. China's building the world's biggest navy. Russia's taking chunks out of Europe. Hamas is setting the Middle East on fire. Our border is wide open. We've got Los Angeles and other parts of the nation, maybe your city this weekend, as other protests are being organized, as I understand it. And what's Congress debating? Whether the sign at the front gate of Fort Hood is sufficiently sensitive. I mean, here's an idea. Maybe we should focus less on the feelings of political activists and more on making sure the Army can actually win a war, and that the men and women in military are ready to fight if they're called on. Now we're supposed to believe that changing the names back is somehow dangerous, a threat to democracy. That's what Gavin Newsom says. That's what CNN says. That's what every Ivy League intern with a press credential is saying right now. Why? Because once you challenge the left's narrative, you threaten their control. And once you bring back one base name, what's next? Bringing back common sense? Bringing back patriotism? Respect for our flag? Respect for our national anthem? Actual accountability in Washington? Wow. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Can't have that. I mean, let's talk about the law for a moment. Some in the media are breathlessly asking, can Trump legally do that? Does he have that authority? Spare us. The Biden administration had no problem ramming these changes through on the back of a post-riot commission and a Democrat Congress. Trump, like every other president, has significant discretion over military installations. If Biden can change them with a pen, Trump can change them back with a Sharpie, and he will very gladly do so. And let's not pretend this wasn't political to begin with. Joe Biden renamed Fort Gordon after Eisenhower. That's not depoliticizing it. That's laundering history through political convenience. He figured that Eisenhower was a nice Republican that most people can stomach, a good one, Not one of those Republicans from the South, not one of those MAGA Republicans, but the people who actually live near these bases, many of them veterans, many of them families of soldiers, they were never asked if it bothered them. They weren't consulted. They just woke up one day and their history was gone. Well, guess what, folks? President Donald Trump, yesterday, with a stroke of a Sharpie, gave it back to them. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. A decade after 9 people were gunned down in a Charleston church, South Carolina's only Democrat in the U.S. House of Representatives is launching another effort to close the loophole that allowed the hate-filled shooter to purchase the gun. U.S. Representative James Clyburn, accompanied by a quartet of House Democrats, announced on Tuesday his latest proposal to give the FBI longer to complete a background check. Instead of letting a gun sale go through after 3 business days, according to the South Carolina Gazette, the bill would give the FBI up to 20 business days to verify whether a customer checks out. 20 business days. Wow. A longer background check may have prevented the tragedy that shocked the nation June 17th, 2015, according to people like James Clyburn. A drug arrest should have prevented the then 21-year-old Dylan Roof from buying the gun he used to kill people gathered for a Wednesday night Bible study, where he just walked into Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in downtown Charleston. He was the only white person in the room full of black parishioners studying the Bible. They welcomed him in. They brought him into their Bible study. But an FBI investigator didn't determine that in time to stop the sale of the gun, according to Clyburn. At a news conference, Clyburn, whose 6th district includes the historic black church, said, "These were all constituents of mine, some of whom I knew personally. With the kind of background check we're talking about today, we would have prevented that because he would never have gotten a gun." And see, that's the fallacy of this argument. Dylan Roof would have gotten a gun regardless of whether he could have purchased it or not. If he can't purchase it, if he is that filled, if anyone is filled with hatred and they've determined that they're going to risk their life, throw their life away in order to take the lives of other people, they're going to get a gun, whether they buy it legally or not. They'll steal one. They'll break into your home and take one of yours. They'll break into a car and take one. The Roof, who was an avowed white supremacist, wanted to start a race war. He had cased the church. He had researched the church. Clyburn said 1 week ahead of the 10-year anniversary, he picked this church because of its history. Yes, he did. I won't argue with that. A federal jury convicted Roof in December of 2016 on 33 counts of federal hate crimes and firearms charges. Weeks later, jurors sentenced him to death. He is among just 3 inmates left on federal death row after President Joe Biden pardoned 37 other prisoners in December. Joe Biden and his final days in office pretty much wiped out everyone on federal death row, except he did not include Dylann Roof. Wonder why that was. I can tell you, because Joe Biden was not going to cross the good Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina's 6th District, whom basically put Joe Biden in the Oval Office. Joe Biden was dead in the water as a candidate. James Clyburn brought him through the Democrat primary that gave him the boost that he needed to go on to get the nomination that year. Now, in the aftermath of the shooting, the federal law allowing a licensed firearm dealer to continue with a sale after 3 days, regardless of whether the check has been completed, became known as the Charleston loophole. State and federal proposals to give the FBI more time have failed repeatedly. A month after the massacre, FBI Director James Comey outlined the clerical errors and jurisdictional confusion that let the gun sale go through, saying the bottom line is clear: Dylann Roof should not have been able to legally buy that gun that day. Had nothing to do with the waiting period. It was just a clumsy effort on the part of the feds in doing the background check. Would they get it right in 20 days? Who knows? At the time, then Governor Nikki Haley said that knowledge made her literally sick to my stomach, knowing that he shouldn't have been able to buy the gun, but he was able to anyway. Her response was to criticize the FBI for still relying on paperwork, saying technology, not more time, is the solution, and she was right. That's one time I agree with Nikki Haley. Pro-gun lobbying groups, including the National Rifle Association, remain staunchly opposed to extending the wait time for background checks, arguing it could put people trying to buy a gun for self-defense in danger. Think about that. Let's say you are in a bad divorce scenario, and you're afraid that your ex is going to harm you, and you don't have a gun, and you need a gun to protect yourself, and you have to wait 20 days to buy a gun, you could be dead by then. The NRA has also noted that 2 months lapsed between Roof buying the gun and the actual shooting. They contend that extending the 3-day required wait would not have stopped him. And it wouldn't have. Again, Dylann Roof was so full of rage, he would have gotten a gun somewhere. He would have stolen one of his parents' guns or something. Nationwide, 22 states have either extended the wait for a background check beyond 3 days or eliminated the ability for a sale to proceed before a check is complete, no matter how long it takes. See, that's part of the problem, too, according to the Democrats, and I'm going to give them that piece of it. They need, as Governor Haley said, they need to update how they do this. The 3 days should be plenty of time to do a background check. Quite often, they never get it done, and so the person is able to buy the gun just simply because it never was completed. The bill that Congressman Clyburn announced yesterday is very similar to legislation that passed the U.S. House in 2019 and again in 2021 when Democrats controlled the chamber. Neither got a vote on the Senate floor. Legislation he introduced in 2023 after Republicans regained control of the House never made it out of committee. This probably won't make it out of committee either. At the news conference, you had all the usual suspects. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries pleaded for Republicans to support the bill. He said the gun violence epidemic that has ravaged America for far too long in such horrific ways, in such deeply personal ways, in such searing ways requires an aggressive, common sense response. We just need a handful of Republicans to join us, he said. They just don't get it, do they? Their knee-jerk reaction is always about the gun. Not about the person, not the fact that Dylann Roof was a very troubled young man. He had some mental health issues. But they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the gun and the system and making it hard for you and me, law-abiding citizens, to purchase a gun for our own safety. Wonder if James Clyburn has guns. You think he has guns to protect himself? Be interesting to know.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.